laughed about the affair on a work call. His revenge leaked the audio to my parents. So my name is Eva, and I just clocked 34 a few months back. I've been married for 10 years now. 10 whole years. And let me tell you, marriage starts off like some dreamy little cloud where everything feels soft and warm and perfect, like nothing could ever go wrong. But over time it gets real, like very real. Everything begins to eat into the marriage, from laundry baskets overflowing, bills piling up, and those dumb little arguments over who left the light on again in the kitchen. I mean, it's not like we hated each other or anything, but I just got bored. I did. I was exhausted from waking up to see my husband by my side every morning. I guess that's what happens when you see someone's flaws. Now, don't get me wrong, my husband, he's a good man. I can't even pretend like he's not. He's kind. He listens when I talk, even when I'm just rambling about nothing. But it just got dull. And I hate saying that out loud, but this is a confessional, right? So here it is. I got bored. He'd been working this same job for a few years, some salesman thing. Hard hours, early mornings, late evenings, and sometimes trips that would last for days. But he did it without complaint. He always did what he had to do. Then his mom got sick. I mean, really sick. She was in and out of the hospital a lot. And he tried, God, he tried, to be there for her and keep working and be there for me too. But the thing is, life doesn't always make space for everything. Something always slips. So one night she passed, just like that, and he wasn't there. He was at work. And that tore him up. Like I've never seen him like that before. He didn't even cry at our wedding, but that night when he found out she was gone and he wasn't there with her, he just crumpled, like his whole body gave up. I just watched him on the couch, holding his phone like it betrayed him. And he didn't say a word for maybe a full hour. He just sat there in that thick, ugly silence. After the funeral, he started saying stuff about wanting to quit his job. He said he felt guilty for working when his mother needed him most. He kept saying that maybe if he was there, just maybe, she wouldn't have gone like that. He said he wanted to take some time, be home, maybe even find something new. Something that gave him peace, whatever that meant. And I listened. I nodded. I even put my hand on his back the way he liked. But deep down, all I could think was, no, don't quit your job. Please don't be home more. Because if he was home, if he was always around, then he'd notice. He'd see the messages. He'd catch the change in my mood, the weird tension every time his cousin's name came up. Yeah, his cousin. This is where it gets bad. I already know it. You will judge me, and it's okay. You can judge me. I judge myself too sometimes, but not enough to stop. At least not then. It's not like it started out planned or anything. You don't exactly just look at your husband's cousin and decide that you were going to throw your marriage away just for moments of pleasure with him. It just happens. At first it was the way he looked at me, like I was the center of his universe. Then the jokes he made, they were just so funny that I'd laugh so hard. The cousin's name doesn't even matter, honestly. Let's just call him Jay. That's not his real name, but it's easier to write. So Jay had always been around. Family gatherings, birthdays, holidays. And he's that guy, the smooth-talking one, the one who makes every girl feel like she's the only one in the room. It's cheesy, but it works. And when you've been married for a decade and your life is just a loop of cooking, cleaning, paying bills, and boring conversations that are mostly about problems that need to be solved, that kind of attention hits differently. The first time anything real happened was after his mom's memorial. Everyone had gone home. It was just me and Jay. We had a bottle of something strong. We got talking about grief and life and stupid stuff like how fast time goes. I told him I didn't feel like myself anymore, that I felt invisible, and he looked right at me, right in the eyes, and said I wasn't invisible, that I still looked the same to him, that I still had that sparkling beauty. And then we kissed, just like that. I didn't plan it, neither did I see it coming, it just happened, just his lips on mine. My brain went quiet for the first time in weeks when we kissed, and I felt as light as a feather. After that, it became a thing, a secret thing. And God, I know how it sounds. It sounds selfish and cold and heartless, and maybe it is. But at the time, it felt like oxygen, like I could finally breathe again. My husband was suffocating me. Marriage was suffocating me. Jay was my breath of fresh air. He made me feel like I was wanted. Like I wasn't just someone's wife or someone's daughter-in-law or someone's stand-in mother because my husband was too deep in his own grief to notice me anymore. I needed something, or I told myself I did, so I kept doing it. I kept seeing Jay, and my husband just sank deeper. He started staying up late, staring at old photos of his mom, started talking about how nothing felt right anymore, how he felt like a ghost in his own skin, and every time he said something like that, I felt like the worst person alive. I mean, I was supposed to be his rock, the shoulder he rested on, but I was pulling my skirt up for his cousin. And for me to keep cheating, I kept lying to him. I'd tell him I had to run to the store or that I was going to see a friend. Sometimes I'd say I was taking a nap just to get him to leave me alone so I could text Jay in peace. He brought up quitting again. Apparently, he didn't want to spend another second doing something that pulled him away from the people he loved. He said he couldn't live with that kind of regret again. He mentioned something about how being around people he loved would help him heal from the loss of his mother. He said he wanted to be present in my life a lot more, and all I could think was, no, don't do that. Stay busy, stay away, because if you're here, you're going to find out, and if you find out, everything's going to blow up. So I told him not to quit. I told him he needed to stay busy, to keep his routine. That grief was a monster, and if he didn't keep moving, it would eat him alive. And he believed me, because he trusts me, and writing this here just makes my stomach turn. Because there I was, pretending to be the supportive wife, when all I really wanted was to keep my secret safe. I used his pain as a shield. I used his love for me as a cover. And that's the worst part. He would have done anything I asked. He would have quit or stayed, or he would have moved to another state if I told him it would help me sleep better at night. But I didn't want him around. Not then. I kept saying the right things, playing the part. I pretended so much that I don't think I could remember what it was like before I started cheating. Meanwhile, I'd meet Jay in parking lots and cheap motels. To me, those places were adventures, and it was exciting to meet up there. And every time I told myself I'd stop, that this would be the last time. I knew my husband didn't deserve this, but my husband was draining the life out of me. One particular week, I decided that I won't even see Jay, and I wanted to give my husband a chance, but I soon got tired of seeing him sad. So, of course, I met up with Jay, and we did it again, because I liked how it made me feel. I liked feeling wanted. I liked not being needed. My husband needed me all the time, needed me to hold him, to tell him it would be okay, to pretend like I was okay too, and I wasn't. I didn't want to be his rock anymore. I wanted to be light again, not heavy and not tied down. But here's the thing. My secret could only stay hidden for so long, on a random Tuesday. I was on the phone with Alice, my friend and coworker. We'd known each other for a few years now and worked on the same team. She was sharp and loud and always said what was on her mind without any hesitation, and that day was no different. She straight up asked me what was going on between me and Jay, like, just flat out. She said she'd seen the way I looked at him, how I lit up a little too much whenever he walked in the room, how my laugh changed around him, and how I touched my hair a lot when he was nearby. That last one made me pause. I didn't even realize I did that, but apparently Alice noticed, and to be honest, it scared me, because if Alice could notice, that means my husband might have noticed it. Anyways, I don't know why, but I confessed everything to her, just like that. I didn't hold back anything, and probably because I was tired of pretending. Or maybe I just needed someone to say, yeah, girl, I get it. I told her everything about Jay, about how it started, and about how it kept going, and how I'd basically rearranged my whole personality so my husband wouldn't notice anything that could tip him off. And the wildest part was that she didn't flinch. She didn't gasp or scold me or say, you need to stop. No, she just laughed. And then she told me she was cheating too. Apparently, she'd been sleeping with some guy she met at a tech conference months ago. I couldn't believe it. It felt like a breath of fresh air to know that I wasn't the only one who was doing it. She told me that it started as just flirting, then a drink, and then it spiraled. She said it made her feel alive, that her husband had stopped seeing her years ago, and this new guy made her feel like the hottest thing walking. And there it was, this weird little bond made of broken vows and bad decisions. After that, our friendship just shifted and we talked more. But not about work or TV shows or whatever. We talked about ourselves, our secrets, and the things we were doing behind closed doors. We talked about it like we were teenagers sneaking out at night and getting away with it, like it was a game and we were winning. We'd text each other after the hookups, laughing about the calls and bragging about how clueless our husbands were. I wish I could say that I am making this up, but it's the truth. We acted like it was some badge of honor, like we were somehow smarter or stronger because we could live these double lives and still make dinner on time and show up at work like nothing was wrong. One evening, everything almost exploded. It was supposed to be a regular day. My husband had told me he was working late. I had it all planned out. Jay was coming over. We weren't even trying to pretend anymore. We'd just sit around like we belonged there, eating snacks and watching trash TV and hooking up like we had no care in the world. But then I heard the car pull up in the driveway and the car door slam outside. That sound hit my chest like a hammer. My heart dropped so fast I actually froze. I looked at Jay and he looked at me and we both just knew. He grabbed his shirt so fast he almost tripped over his shoes. I ran to the front door to stall, trying to play it cool. He ran to the back, barely even getting the door closed without making a sound. I opened the front door with the fakest smile I've ever worn. Told him I was just thinking about him. I pulled him in for a hug like I was some perfect little wife who'd been missing her man all day. Meanwhile, Jay was sneaking out the back like a scared teenager. My brain was spinning the whole time, wondering if he'd left anything behind or if he'd made a noise. But my husband just smiled and hugged me back and said he had missed me too. After my husband walked in, I quickly scanned the entire room, looking for anything that Jay might have left behind, but luckily there was nothing. That night, I cooked dinner like nothing had happened. I laughed at his dumb jokes and work stories. I told him he should get some sleep early. I did everything I could to keep the energy smooth, and he didn't notice a thing. Not one thing. He even said the house smelled like something good, and all I could think was, thank God I lit that scented candle. The next morning, I woke up still kind of high off the adrenaline, like I had just gotten away with robbery or something. I got up a bit late. My husband had already gone for work, and I needed to get ready for work as well. I checked my phone for any new messages, and there was a sudden call from Alice. It was just a quick check-in. She was giving me some updates on a work meeting I missed the previous day because I left early to meet up with Jay. Something about budget changes or whatever. I barely listened. Once she was done with all the boring work talk, I went straight in and told her everything. I told her how Jay had to sneak out the back and how I met my husband at the front door with a fake smile and a hug while my side piece was ducking through the yard like he was in some spy movie. Alice couldn't hold herself back. She laughed like she was about to faint. I mean, full-on belly laughed. She said I was slick and added that my acting skills needed an award. She said I should have been in Hollywood. And I laughed too, like hard. It was like tears coming out my eyes kind of laugh. I said my husband was too stupid to even catch on, that he had no clue what was happening right under his nose, that I had been lying to his face for months and he still looked at me like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. And then we both just sat there on the phone, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. Alice told me about some of her recent adventures with her lover. The call was on speaker throughout because I was making breakfast while talking. After we were done talking, I hung up and realized just how quiet the entire house was without me talking. The laughs were over and I was sitting in my kitchen, staring at the coffee and toast I had made for breakfast. I knew I should have felt bad about everything I said, but I didn't. My husband made everything feel like a drag because his mother died. I mean, I get it, but he's going to have to move on at some point. Anyways, I shoved down any shred of guilt that dared to raise its head, just like I always did. That night, my husband came home and something was off, like immediately off. He walked in, gave me a half smile, dropped his keys in the little bowl by the door like always, but his eyes, they weren't right. He looked tired, but not the usual kind of tired. It wasn't just about work or grief or life. It felt like something else. He looked like he was carrying something that didn't have words. I asked him if he was okay. He said he was fine. His reply was really dry. I knew he was in a bad mood, but he didn't even try to fake a proper smile. He just said nothing was wrong and went straight to the kitchen. I followed behind him for a second, waiting to see if he'd say more, but he didn't. He just stood by the fridge for a while like he forgot what he came in there for. I stood there awkward for a few seconds, then turned around and left him alone. I figured maybe he just wasn't in the mood to talk, or he was having a rough night, and I honestly didn't care enough to push. I had other things on my mind. The next morning, I got up early, went to work like normal. I had a slow day, nothing special. I wasn't really focused, though. My mind was on Jay. I had told him I'd be back home earlier than usual, and he said he'd swing by. I was looking forward to it, not gonna lie. I was stupidly excited for someone who shouldn't even be in my life. So I left work a bit early, got home, fixed myself up, lit a candle, the same one I always used to kill any trace, and waited. Jay came over like clockwork. We had a good time. It was a stupid, messy, careless kind of time. And I kept looking at the front door, making sure it stayed shut. Every time Jay laughed too loud, I shushed him, and whenever the floor creaked, I became tense. I was being very vigilant because I didn't want the near miss that happened before to happen again. But still, I smiled through it. I told myself that as long as I remained alert, I would get away with it. Then about 2 days later, it was Saturday, and I was planning to visit my parents. I hadn't been there in a few weeks, and they missed me. My husband knew I was going, and that morning he handed me a small bag and a basket of goodies. It was some stuff for my parents. Nothing big, just a few things for them, and a few things for my younger brother, too. He was fond of giving my parents gifts, and my mother enjoyed his treats. He was about to walk back to the room when I asked him if he wasn't going to give me a goodbye kiss. That was when he slowly walked back to me and planted a kiss on the cheek. The kiss was soft and hasty, almost like he didn't mean it. He then asked me to tell my parents he was sorry he couldn't come. His excuse was that he had too much to do around the house and just wanted some alone time. I didn't think anything of it. I honestly didn't mind. I just said okay and left. The drive to my parents' house was smooth. I played music the whole way and didn't really think much about anything other than Jay. We had something planned the coming week, and I was excited for it. I just needed to get through the weekend, and I'd see Jay again. When I got to my parents' house, my mom was waiting by the door like always, smiling big. My dad was in the living room watching the news with his feet on the table. He had the remote in his hand like it was his symbol of authority in the house. I can remember all this because it was in that living room that my life took a nosedive. I gave my mom the bag and basket from my husband, and she was excited. She always loved it when he sent her little things. She always praised him for having good taste. She dug through the bag and basket immediately right there in the living room and was smiling and gasping like a kid opening birthday presents. Then she pulled out 2 small flash drives. They were white, plain, just labeled 1 and 2 with a marker in my husband's handwriting. She held them up like she'd just found a secret. I remember the exact words she said. "What's this? He sent us movies?" I laughed nervously and said, "I don't know, maybe it's some old photos or something. Maybe he found some family stuff." I had no idea what was on those drives. She grabbed her laptop, which was on the dining table, and plugged the first one into it. My dad got up from the couch and came over too, curious. The file loaded, and it was just one media file on the flash drive. It didn't have a title, just a timestamp. She clicked play. It was just audio. Then I heard my voice, clear as day. I was laughing hard, saying the words I never thought I'd hear outside that phone call. It was my last phone call with Alice, the one in which I talked about how Jay had to sneak out the back. My parents listened to how I said that my husband was too stupid to even know what was going on. My husband this, my husband that. Alice's voice joined in too, the both of us laughing like we were untouchable. My parents listened as I spoke in detail about my affair with Jay, and I could see the disgust on their faces. At that point, I was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at the screen while my own voice hurt like it was drilling through my brain. My mom's face was a mixture of horrid emotions that I can't even explain. I felt the temperature in the room drop. My dad didn't say a word. He just stood there, mouth slightly open, blinking like he didn't understand what he was hearing. My mom slowly turned to me. She looked like she had seen a ghost. She asked me what that was. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't lie, and I couldn't cry. I just stood there like a statue, letting the audio keep playing, letting every disgusting word fall into the air like poison. It played all the way through, every second of it, and when it ended, nobody said a word. My mom stepped away from the computer like it had burned her. My dad sat down at the table. It was as though his legs gave up, and I just stood there, unable to say a single word. I had never seen that look on my parents' faces before. Not even when I got suspended in high school, and not even when I messed up my first job. This was different, and it wasn't just disappointment. It was heartbreak and disbelief. It was shame, pure, thick shame, and what made it worse was that I still didn't know what was on drive number 2. I didn't want to know. My mom stood there holding the second flash drive like it was ticking in her hand. I could see her thumb hovering over the keyboard, ready to plug it in, and something inside me just panicked. I didn't know what was on it, but I had this horrible feeling in my stomach, like whatever was on that drive was going to be worse, way worse. So I reached for her hand and said no. I didn't even say a full sentence, just a soft, shaking no. She looked at me confused for a second, then I tightened my grip, and I begged her. I begged her not to play it. I told her it wasn't necessary and that she didn't need to see it. I pleaded with her that the first one was enough. She looked at me. Her eyes were already watery. Before I could blink, she shouted at me with a loud and sharp voice, asking me to let go of her. She yanked her hand free like my hands were hurting her. Then she plugged in the second flash drive. I stood there weak and not knowing what to do as the file popped up on the screen. It wasn't audio this time. It was a video, crystal clear with good audio quality. I didn't need to guess. It was definitely a recording of me and Jay in my bedroom. We were on my husband's bed. It was from 2 days ago. I couldn't even lie or say it was old. My clothes from that day were in the laundry back home. My hair, the angle, the sheets, everything was current. It was me and Jay right there on the screen. The sound, the movements, and the full betrayal, right in my parents' house on their little computer, burning a hole into their hearts. My mom gasped, like she had been slapped in the chest. Then she slammed the laptop shut so hard, I thought the screen would crack. Her hands were shaking, and her whole body was trembling, and the tears just started falling. It wasn't the usual soft and subtle tears. It was full, hot, devastating tears. She looked at me like I was something she didn't recognize. Then she shouted, "Get out!" And again, "Get out!" She shouted it a few more times. I tried to speak and tell her that I was sorry. I wanted to tell her that it wasn't supposed to happen and that I didn't know how I got to this place. I stepped forward, reaching for her, and she stepped back like I was carrying a disease and touching me would infect her. She wouldn't let me speak. So I turned to my dad, my last hope, my last shot at someone who might still see me as their daughter, but he didn't even look at me right away, and when he did, his face looked empty, like hollowed out, like something had just snapped inside him. He said he didn't want to hear my voice and that he didn't even want to see me. He said I was a disgrace to everything they taught me, that I had dragged our family name through the dirt, that I had spat on the love people gave me. After saying all that, he looked away. That was it. I didn't say anything after that. I didn't even try. I just picked up my bag with my hands shaking and my face soaked in tears, and I walked out of that house like a stranger. I don't even remember how I made it to my car, or how I started the engine, or how I drove. My whole body was just one giant pulse of regret and fear and pain and shame. My vision was blurry the whole way home, and my chest hurt so bad it felt like I couldn't breathe. Everything felt cold and quiet. It was like I was living my own personal nightmare. When I finally pulled up to the house, I just wanted to crawl into bed and disappear. My head was spinning, my heart was shattered, and my face was still damp from crying the whole drive back. I didn't even know what I was going to say to my husband. I didn't have a plan. I just wanted to see him. I needed him to look at me and tell me if I still had a chance to fix anything. I got to the front door and reached for the knob. It was locked. That didn't surprise me too much at first. He usually locked up when he was home alone, so I pulled out my key, slid it into the lock, and tried to turn it, but it didn't budge. I tried again and again, but it still didn't work. My key didn't fit anymore. I paused, staring at the lock like maybe it was jammed or something, like maybe I was just doing it wrong. I wiggled it, jiggled it, pressed my ear to the door, like something would change. But deep down, I knew. He had changed the lock. I paused there for a second. Then I looked at the side, and I saw trash bags packed at the side, as well as my luggages and traveling bag. My husband had thrown out all my things. In panic, I started knocking. The knocks got harder by the second. Then I started calling his name through the door. But I didn't hear anything. No footsteps, no voice, and no shadow under the door. Just silence. I pulled out my phone and called him, but there was no answer. I called again, then again. Still nothing. I tried texting, but he didn't reply. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. My head was pounding. My heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. Then out of nowhere, this yellow taxi pulled up right in front of the house. I turned, confused for a second, and then the door opened, and Alice stepped out. She looked like she hadn't slept all night. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were puffy and red. She didn't say anything at first. She just stormed straight at me. And before I could even speak or breathe or react, she released a heavy slap that landed on my face. But it wasn't just one slap. She gave me another one, and another one. They were hard and hurtful. I stumbled backward, almost falling off the porch. My cheek was burning. I tasted blood in my mouth. I couldn't even understand what was happening until she started screaming. She said I betrayed her, that I ruined her life. She said I was the only one she ever trusted with her secret. And now her husband knew. He found out everything. Apparently someone sent him a recording of our call. The one with the laughing and jokes and the sneaking around. And he kicked her out. He said she was dead to him. And she blamed me. She screamed in my face, saying that I set her up and that I talked too much, that I dragged her into the fire with me. I tried to talk to her, to explain that I didn't know anything was being recorded and that I never meant for her to get caught, that everything was spiraling and I didn't know how to stop it. But she didn't care. She yanked my hair, screaming that she would hate me until the end of the world, that I destroyed everything, that I deserved to be alone. I tried to push her off, but she was clawing and grabbing and crying and hitting me all at once. It was a mess. We were both yelling, cursing, and flailing like crazy people. Then I started to hear voices. Neighbors and passers-by were gathering. Someone was shouting for us to stop, and another person was pulling Alice back. Someone grabbed my arm and pulled me away. People were coming out of their houses, walking down their driveways, standing on lawns with wide eyes and phones in their hands. Some were filming and others were just watching. And just like that, the gossip about me exploded. It didn't take long. Not even a full hour before the neighborhood group chat probably had the whole breakdown. The messages wouldn't stop popping on my phone. It's as though they forgot I was on the group chat as well. People were saying that I was still standing in front of my own door at night, unable to get in and with nowhere to go. And they were right. The air felt thick. My face was still hot from the slaps and my arms were sore. My hair was tangled from Alice's grip and my chest felt like it was about to cave in from the weight of everything. I looked around and it was getting dark. People were still poking their heads out of their windows and doors to see if I was still sitting in front of my door. No one said anything helpful. No one offered a hand or a word of kindness. They were all just judging me silently. Update. The days that followed after my life went up in flames were a blur. I stayed at a cheap motel across town. It was the only place I could afford at the last minute, and I barely slept. I couldn't even eat. I kept trying to reach my husband, hoping maybe he'd pick up once. Just once, but he never did. And then, one morning, I woke up to my phone blowing up. First it was Alice, even though I'd blocked her. She found another number. She was cursing me out, saying I deserved everything that was coming. Then coworkers started texting me. Then one of my aunts. Then people I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them saying the same kind of thing, that they saw it, that they couldn't believe it, that I was bold to think he wouldn't find out. I didn't even know what they were talking about at first. My brain couldn't process anything. Not until someone finally sent me a link. It was a video of my pictures with the recording of my call with Alice playing in the background. It had been posted on Facebook, and it was made public for everyone to see, and it was shared by an anonymous account. I think it was Alice because it was clear she intended to drag me down to the deepest hole she could find. The caption said something like, "Not the faithful wife you all think she is. 10 years of marriage meant nothing to her." The comments under the video were endless. Some were sympathetic to my husband, while most were brutal to me. People called me heartless, a cheater, a disgrace. Some people even shared their own cheating stories, saying this was the best revenge they'd ever seen. It got hundreds of shares. People who knew me, people who didn't. Some tagged my job, some tagged Jay. Some even dug up my high school yearbook photo and started joking about how they should have seen it coming. But that wasn't even the worst part. Later that evening, I got a knock on the motel room door. It was a delivery guy with a manila envelope. It was divorce papers, and inside, taped to the back of the folder, was a copy of the wedding photo I had framed in our bedroom. But now it had a big red X drawn across my face. Underneath it, he'd written, "You may have fooled me for 10 years, but not a second longer." The divorce went through fast. He didn't want anything from me. He said he just wanted to be free. He even made sure to donate all the gifts I'd ever given him, even the ones that were sentimental. They were all gone. I couldn't carry my stuff that evening when I was locked out of the house and my husband had moved out of the house before I could even go back to pick up my stuff. My clothes were still at the side of the house. He even posted a picture of it with the caption, "Trash goes where it belongs." And that was the final nail. I had no home, no husband, and no parents to turn to. Alice hated me, and the office was buzzing with judgment. My reputation was damaged. Even Jay ghosted me, the second things got real. He blocked my number and moved on like I was never anything to him. And I was just left there to be alone and embarrassed, stripped down to nothing but shame.